Wait, oh, this guy's legit. Like, he was just saying like a horrifically racist thing while not recognizing it. Okay. I'm going to answer what he was trying to say then. I thought he was trolling originally. Okay. Didn't mean to offend anyone. I think most countries want their own values and their own way of living, and mass immigration creates conflicts more than peace, just like the world we live in. Okay. Do you want to know why you don't have this kind of point of view on Polish people, Irish people, even German people, for example, or Jewish people? Do you understand why, like, in America, no one is saying like we need to stop the fucking Polacks from coming or some shit like that? They used to. The reason why they don't say that is because 3 generations in, every single culture completely assimilates to American culture, and they used to be this racist or this bigoted towards Polish people. They were this bigoted towards Irish people. They were this bigoted towards Italians. It's just whatever the flavor of the month is. I mean, Benjamin Franklin literally fucking considered Germans to be swarthy. He thought Germans weren't even white enough. The only whites were Anglo-Saxons. So whiteness or culture is an ever-expanding concept. It's fluid. It's dynamic. There is no such thing as like cultural gatekeeping. It's not a real concept. And it's completely made up. And it's never existed throughout history either, by the way. I mean, the reason why you have modern medicine, or the reason why you have algebra, for example, is a consequence of the Islamic Golden Age greatly advancing mathematics, for example. Do you understand? So there is no like cultural preservation in this form. So it is deeply racist because racist people have come up with this notion that like white culture is different than other cultures, specifically black culture, for example, and that white culture needs to be preserved. But when you ask them what white culture is, it is a completely made up concept that has expanded and has gotten smaller and shrunken throughout time, depending on what the in-group looks like. Understand? Their own values. Like, everyone has the same set of values in regards to humanity, a peaceful existence, things of that nature. But most importantly, like, immigrants that come to this country don't actually radically shift the country's culture. And as a matter of fact, when they do end up changing some elements of, like, I don't know, the country's culture, it's a beautiful thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Understand? In the letter, Franklin considered Swedes to not even be real white people. Yeah. I mean, that's like next level. I don't know what the fuck that. And American culture is very unique. American culture is different than most other Western superpowers because of how diverse American culture is, because of the immigration. America is a nation that has been so successful partially because of how we have always had the brain drain and immigrants coming into the United States for a very long time, like since its beginning, since its inception. So to say that as an American, or to talk about it as like, so you think only white people are accepted culturally in America? Wait, what? Yeah, I get it now. Thanks. What? No. I'm saying that there is no like white culture. It's like a fucking completely made up concept that did not even include Polish people or Irish people or Jewish people, depending on what time you're looking at it, depending on what time frame you're looking at it from. And the very same arguments were launched against Irish immigration. The very same arguments were launched against Polish immigration. The very same arguments were launched against whatever the dominating group of overwhelming immigration was coming from. Okay? What about European whites? What do you mean Europe? What about European whites? The only difference that black culture actually means something as opposed to white culture is because of colonization and slavery. Okay? White culture in and of itself is a completely made up concept. But the reason why black culture is something that people can comprehend or can understand is because African Americans, African descendants of slaves, were ripped away from their homes, their ethnic background, so they were forced to recreate their own new culture. Their own new culture that was bred within an inception from slavery and the abolition of slavery and the civil rights movement. And that's why there is such a thing as like black culture, but not necessarily something like white culture. And it's not like black people would want to have black culture specifically, like, but they just don't know where they're fucking from half the time. And that is literally because of rape and because of the cultural genocide of which was an aftermath of which was an effect of slavery. Literally incoherent. Nothing I said is incoherent. Black people have black culture, which is a substitute for African American culture, and the only reason why that exists, unlike white culture, which does not exist, is not a real fucking thing, is because when you, as a white person, for example, can trace back your lineage all the way to like Ireland, you could be like, well, on my great grandfather's side, you know, he's Irish from literally this fucking town in Ireland. Whereas a black person has a limitation to where they can trace their lineage back to. Because at a certain point, every single African descendant of slaves in the United States of America was ripped away from their homes, from their ethnic backgrounds, from whatever kind of diverse country or culture or language they came from as a consequence of enslavement. That's the reason. That's why there is like somewhat of a tangible, comprehensible black culture, which is African American culture, whereas there is no white culture, because what the fuck is white culture? Like, that's, you have British culture, maybe. You could say like, oh, well, I'm Irish, I'm British, I'm fucking English, I'm German, I'm Polish. But you do not have that same concept for African descendants of slaves. But basically, black culture exists because white people committed cultural genocide through slavery. Yes, and genocide in general. That's it. As a black American, you were 100% correct. I don't understand chatters, those chatters' arguments. I think a lot of chatters have never really thought about this, which is fine. America is very segregated, so they don't comprehend it. And it's hard for people to comprehend it. They experience some form of oppression in their own lives, and then they think that it's a consequence of like being white, because the only way that people can experience oppression in America in 2020 is by like whatever identity they're from, whatever their background is, and not necessarily their class position or the economic realities that they're subjected to. It has to be about like race. So they're like, wait a minute, me as a white guy, like that's why I'm being oppressed. Like, no, you're not being oppressed because your great grandfather was Irish. You're probably experiencing some form of oppression as a consequence of coming from a middle class background or a poor background. Okay. This is why there is such a thing as AAVE. There is no Irish American Vernacular English. I've never thought about this, and I think you explained it perfectly. Thank you. At least some people understand what I was saying. People freak out because they hear white people have no culture and hear white people are uncultured. Yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. How Ghana and Uganda have different cultures, i.e. not black culture, because black doesn't exist in Africa in the same way it does here. Yes, exactly. like Nigerian culture, Ugandan culture is different than one another. Okay, Africa is an incredibly diverse continent. Now there are some ways that you can look at black culture or African culture, because to a similar extent, a lot of African nations have experienced colonization, and therefore there are similarities, but that doesn't mean that their cultures are similar at all. They have a shared, as someone pointed out in the chat, they have a shared colonial legacy, but it's still not the same. I don't think I agree with you. There 100% isn't a white culture, but that doesn't make me culturally British. I'd say it's more of regional culture. Dude, the only reason why you don't think that you're like culturally British is because you're fucking American. And most immigrants feel that way too, possibly as a consequence of you being way, way, way removed from your ancestral lineage there from the Brits. Okay? You're fucking American. Third generation immigrants. It doesn't matter if they're Latinos. It doesn't matter if they're black, white, yellow, brown, purple. Doesn't fucking matter. Whatever color, whatever ethnic background, whatever the creed they have. Third generation immigrants are American. Okay. Can you imagine fucking third generation, like a third generation Mexican kid being like, oh yeah, I'm really fucking, I'm really a product of Mexican culture. I'm Mexican, actually. No, motherfucker. No, that doesn't happen. Even first generation, even fucking dreamers talk about how America and American culture and the English language is all they fucking know because they were brought here as babies, dude. And that's a first generation immigrant. If you come to America when you're fucking 2 years old and your parents bring you over the border, then that's all you know. You go to American school, then that's your culture. That's all you fucking know. And it'd be incredibly cruel to literally ship you back to, I don't know, Guatemala or Mexico or wherever your family's originally from, because you don't know anything about that. You don't know anything about fucking Mexico. Some of the dreamers don't even speak fucking Spanish. Spend more time in the cultural ghettos and you'll sing a different tune. Dude, that is idiotic. Cultural ghettos literally exist. Cultural ghetto, by the way, only exists as a consequence of not being able to financially integrate into the American economy. They only exist as a consequence of the American exceptionalism and white supremacy and people literally not allowing first generation immigrants to successfully participate in the American economy. Not that, but not only that, but also, again, that does not pertain to third generation immigrants. You're fucking out of your mind. If you are 3 generations in, you have become American fully. And that is abso-fucking-lutely a fact, no matter what your background is. Cultural ghettos exist in a way to in a way to lighten the burden of first generation immigrants. That's the only reason why you have enclaves such as, I guess, cultural ghettos. Is a disgusting way to reference that, by the way. Holy shit. Oh. My girlfriend calls herself Mexican, but she's like third generation immigrant. I think it has to do with the white, non-white racial categorization in this nation. She speaks no Spanish, but comes from the ghetto of like Texan Hispanic immigrants. Okay, she speaks no Spanish. She says she's Mexican. If you were like, yeah, you can't fucking live in America anymore, you have to go live in Mexico, she would have a very tough time living in fucking Mexico. That's the point I'm trying to make. She's American. It's very American to be like, I'm Mexican, while literally not speaking any Spanish. Incredible fucking American take. That is no different at that point. That's no different than someone being like, oh, I'm fucking Irish. I'm Irish just because he lives in Boston. Okay? That's literally what like, there's obviously additional like racialized violence and additional issues as it pertains to like being fucking Mexican that does not currently exist anymore with like someone of Irish descent. But in a way, it's not that different than someone who is saying that they're Irish. It's like Italians, another great example. Third generation with no Spanish, and now I'm afraid to go to Mexico, lol. Don't speak for every immigrant. We did well after moving from Russia. Wait, immigrants do remarkably well in America. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, a lot of immigrants do well when they come to America, depending on what country or what circumstance they came here as, not refugees. But most immigrants do very well in America because they're coming from more affluent backgrounds, more affluent beginnings in comparison to fucking in comparison to the rest of their country. That's why Nigerians, for example, are the most educated, best off ethnic background in this country. Nigerians are like, Nigerian education levels are double. Like Nigerians with a graduate education or higher, that number, that percentage is double or even triple, if I'm not mistaken, the number of whites if you look at like all white people. Why do you think that is? Something that triggers the fuck out of white people, by the way. If you ever want to frustrate racist people, tell them that the highest educated ethnic background in America is not white people, it's fucking Nigerian people. 1000%, by the way. Average Nigerian median income is higher than white median income too, actually. Of course. That's not surprising at all. It's self-selected too. We must protect this great white culture. What is this? Oh! Dude! What is this, RTBA? I'm stomping that. Anyone who comes to the U.S. on a work visa is extremely overqualified for the jobs they come to. It's the only way you qualify for work visas. The chud myth that immigrants steal American jobs is fucking insane. Yeah, I know. But isn't that like because there are 3,000 Nigerians in the U.S. and all of them are doctors or something? No, because if you're from fucking Nigeria and you have the capacity to come to the United States, you're probably coming from a very affluent beginning, an affluent background. That's it. Like, America doesn't hand out visas to motherfuckers for no reason, okay? That's the point. They have very deliberately, for a very long time, ensured that that every immigrant that comes into the country that's not coming in through familial bonds or through like being related to someone is worth having here or whatever the fuck you would consider. Bro, fuck you. It's fucking Asian Americans. Stop misleading the unsuspecting children in the chat. Wait, what? The video is fake, so you can show it. Anyway, I'm skipping it. The Marxist ascension. Wait, what? Bro, are you all right, dude? Is your brain okay, dude? This guy is like losing his shit. Fucking Asian identity Andy over here, dude. Also, even if it were to be Asian Americans, stop lying, you're always lying, you Weasley little liar. By the way, for the record, even if it was Asian Americans, that still absolutely is my argument. You know that, right? Like, the reason why, this is actually a good example. So, people always say, like, what about Asians? They use Asians as a model minority, right? First of all, if you look at, like, third generation Asians, their fucking scores, their, like, test scores and whatnot it absolutely also adjusts to the rest of the country. And secondly, the reason why like Asians, which is already an insane thing to fucking just loop together. I didn't say black people have the highest, or Africans have the highest education level. I said Nigerians, and you want to compare that to Asians. But the reason why there's like a model minority myth around Asian Americans is because, again, in a similar capacity, Asians, depending on what status they arrived in the country, I'm not talking about like Vietnamese, for example, but Asian Americans, in a similar way to Nigerians and Turkish people and numerous other people that are coming into the United States, are coming from more affluent backgrounds. That's it. That's why they outperform other groups in the country. That's how it works, especially if we're talking about first generation immigrants. It always goes back to socioeconomic conditions. Okay? Doesn't this make race a bigger separation gap than class does? I thought it would be having the opposite of poor people, but having different ethnic backgrounds are closer together than people of the same race. What? Professed remorse in DMs a few days after the ban from Assam, but their logs made me feel like they'll just be toxic again. So if you're reading this, they probably deserve a ban. Okay, we'll see what he says when he's on banned. Why sub-Saharan African immigrants to America are the most educated? A real example of the American take you were talking about earlier. I'm proud to say that my blood last name is Bambini, and although my ancestry DNA gives me 0 Italian DNA on my dad's side, I'll stick with being 1/4 Italian. Bambini. It's amazing you understand how educated Nigerians are, but you continue to disrespect my culture by refusing to call us doctors. Yes, I don't call every Nigerian a doctor. Bambini. I don't get it. If it's LMAO educated Asians myth, but when it's the same reasons exist for why Nigerians are educated, it's not a myth. Care to explain? Wait, what? I'm not shitting on Asian people at all, dummy. I'm saying that the reason why there is a racialized myth around Asians in America being the model minority is a consequence of immigration and their immigration status being subjected to additional scrutiny. Hello. Just like Nigerians, it's the exact fucking same. It has nothing to do with like the race or culture of Asian folks, and everything to do with the fact that the Asian folks that are coming into the United States are already coming from more affluent beginnings. Stop saying we have to get them out. I think these are good. These are a lot of conversations that I haven't haven't done deep dives into in a while. I mean, if you are accepted in America because you're white and live the American way, but if I immigrated to America, my way of living won't be accepted. What's your way of living? Like, what do you want to live in a fucking hut? Like, I don't understand your way of living. You're making it seem like you're from a different fucking background than what is accepted in America, and like, and I don't understand it. Like, I don't get what you're trying to say. Are you LARPing as like a fucking immigrant in the chat right now or something? Like, hey, I am a black man from Africa. Like, is that what you're going to do? MR Ajan, should we reject misogynistic immigrants? Mr. Ajan, what? Yep, all foreign policy exchange students in my university district drive Lambos and Ferraris and shit. Anyway. I'm a black man from Africa. And I'm here to tell you that we want to live in huts. I'm black, I swear. Yeah. We wanna do what genocide did to white man. No, the model minority myth is a predict of racial divisions, i.e. the people in power were afraid of Asian and black identifying people coming together and solidarity, so they created a narrative of Asian Americans being the model, and the populations of Asian Americans played into that and recognized it as an opportunity. Unfortunately, the model minority myth is written into law. What? Some of the viewers here don't know the inside joke around doctors. You're disregarding culture, but it's 100% the reason why Asians do better than other ethnicities regarding education. I feel like some of you have never met like a third generation Asian dude. Like, which is understandable. It's not like a super high percentage. I'm Asian and I suck at school, Pog. Yeah. I mean, I have second gen Asian homies, and also my cousins are literally, are they third gen? I guess they're technically third gen, and they're just fucking American, dude. They're just American, and their educational outcomes are going to resemble an average American student. Like there's no indication that like third gen Asians are better off in the education system. Wouldn't you say you're West Asian? Technically, I myself, depending on what you're looking at it as, would be classified as Asian as well, but Caucasian. Doesn't the third gen Asian thing prove the culture point? America's actively making people dumber in 1 to 2 generations. Not necessarily dumber. Anyway. I have a friend in high school that was 7th generation American. Parents moved in during the Union Pacific Rail construction, and they're as white as you can get, LMAO. Another fun fact for a lot of people who will be shocked to find out, but there's a lot of dumb Asian folk in Asian countries as well. Like, this is going to be a remarkable thing to find out. But hey, guess what? Like, some people are dumb, some people are smart, some people have better educational opportunities, and those with better educational opportunities are able to come to the United States of America if they are from a more affluent background, and therefore it's a sampling bias built into the immigration system. That's just how it works. It has nothing to do with like culture or anything like that. Also, people who have a third generation Chinese French Americans fuck. The only thing that would makes I would say makes her Asian is that she isn't afraid to eat Chinese foods, certain Chinese foods.
unless I'm nuts, that's pretty much where we are. And Trump looks at me. He's sitting. He looks up and he goes, do I recognize you? I recognize you. And I said, oh, well, I'm on Tucker a lot. He goes, oh, that must be it. Then he turns to David, my husband. He goes, who are you? David goes, well, I'm his husband. He goes, husband? He goes, you know what your only problem is? Your problem is you guys are too handsome. You guys are just too handsome. That's your problem. Then he goes, Melania. He goes, honey, can you believe it? These guys are gay. Can you believe it? He goes,
oh, I should have waited to finish that one, dude. That's a great video.